I tried, you guys. I really tried to like this movie. I tried.
Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake!
The Incredibles 2 is the sixth feature film from director Brad Bird, whose directorial debut is my second favorite animated film of all time, The Iron Giant. He also directed The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. It's safe to say that with every film that comes from this director, I have a certain expectation of what we should be getting. But now, that expectation is starting to wane a little.
Incredibles 2 was good. I had such a good time with it, even though I don't think that it was worth the 14 years it took to make it. Before the film started, they played this movie took 14 years to make intro with all the main cast and the director Brad Bird. They told us that it would be worth the wait, and I was already dreading watching this film. I rolled my eyes and audibly said, "Here we go." The intro, although cute, I feel like should not have been placed right at the beginning.
I didn't really have high hopes for this film since the first trailer came out, which basically told us, hey, Incredibles 2 is gonna have the same plot as the first one, so come for nostalgia and nothing else at all. And I was still disappointed. The Incredibles 2 experience wasn't completely void of enjoyment, though. I enjoyed how ridiculous the sequence with Jack Jack and the raccoon was. I enjoyed how much chemistry Edna Mode and Jack Jack had.
Jack Jack, copying Edna Mode's aesthetic, gave me life.
And the train sequence with Elastigirl was impressively choreographed, but those were fleeting moments in an otherwise unnecessary movie. I don't really think that the story is the most important part of what makes a movie great, because every story has been told before. What makes a movie great to me is how it's told. But with The Incredibles 2, the story and the way it's told in tandem is lazy, transparent, and borderline pandering. The villain's name is Evil Endeavor, as in evil endeavor, like how Cruella de Vil is Cruel Devil, but that movie didn't pretend that Cruella de Vil was somebody that we were supposed to like anyway. You know what's even more clever? How Michaela Baines from Transformers is Michael Bay. Isn't that fucking clever? OMG. Okay. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that her name basically told us she was the bad guy, but in a film so transparent and lazy, I have no choice but to believe that the filmmakers thought the audience is stupid. Ooh. Stupid. What made The Incredibles good to me is that it actually had something to say. It was inspired. Its existence had a purpose. It displays the soul-crushing nature of being a person who had a dream and threw it away to be normal because society told him not being normal is bad, and how that affects his children and his marriage. It critiques the idea of the nuclear family. It critiques the insecurities of the mid-20th century man. It critiques fandom and how people can take it way too far, while also saying don't put too much emotional investment in your heroes. It displays a clash between the past and the future and how easy it is to give into nostalgia, but ultimately you need to move forward. It has a lot to say. It's not a flawless movie, but it oozes with purpose. The Incredibles 2 basically traces over what the first movie did and adds nothing new, and the topics that it does reiterate from the previous installment isn't even done with nearly the amount of nuance or care that it deserves. To further elaborate my point, we're going to explain the plot of one of the Incredibles films, and you're going to tell me which movie we're talking about. An incident in the city is happening, and the superheroes come to save the day, but it takes a bad turn and the superheroes end up looking bad.
The heroes have to go into hiding.
There's a dinner scene with the family, and Violet and Dash are in conflict with each other, and the comedic elements derive from their powers.
Violet is trying to date a boy from her school named Tony.
Dash is having trouble at school.
One or both of the parents gets invited by a super rich person to be a superhero again.
One parent stays at home and watches the kids while the other gets paid to be a superhero again.
Scene where the parents who stayed at home visit Edna Mode, and Edna motivates them and shows them the new suits that she's made.
Super rich person who hired the superhero to be a superhero is a tech geek who had a bad experience with a superhero a long time ago and turned out to be the bad guy causing all the conflict the whole time to try to get rid of superheroes permanently, and holds the hero they hired hostage after they revealed their true nature.
The family goes to save them. The villain, using a minion or minions they've created, tries to make the heroes look bad in public.
The family comes together to defeat the minion or minions being controlled by the villain.
The family defeats the villain.
Violet gets a first date with Tony.
New threat arises, and the superheroes get suited up as the movie ends.
See what I mean?
Well, at least the animation quality was top-notch. I saw this film in Regal RPX, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. It looked so crisp and sleek, and it felt like the animators actually cared about what they were making. It was a huge relief.
The animation this time around was overall better. The capabilities of CG animation in 2004 haven't aged well. Mostly the backgrounds, which The Incredibles 2 does improve on. I didn't, however, enjoy the way some of the characters looked. Like Mr. Incredible with the 5 o'clock shadow look. He kinda looks like he's made out of clay to me. I don't know how else to describe it, but it just looked off.
Remember when Elastigirl is put in a chair and frozen solid? Remember when Doctor Doom did the same thing to Mr. Fantastic? I remember. I was laughing so hard. Once we entered the third act, when the brainwashed heroes tried to kidnap Violet, Dash, and Jack-Jack, I became very entertained. Every scene kept me enthralled, and I love how all the different powers fit in together. I want a Void film right now. I need it. I want to see her backstory explored more. We won't get it though. I'll probably have to read a book or something. Shout out to Snoke. The final shot of all the heroes standing side by side reminded me of the Justice League end shot of all the heroes standing side by side. You know the one I'm talking about. The one all the way at the end of the movie after the clusterfuck with Stefan the Wolf. Ugh.
One more major thing that bothered me is why this movie takes place directly after the first one. We learn nothing new about these characters. Violet is still trying to date Tony, Dash is still struggling in school, and the parents switched roles, so that's it. And the movie doesn't even attempt to go into a new direction with the same problems that these characters have, so like what's the point of doing it in the first place? Wouldn't it have been way more interesting if Brad Bird leaned on the fact that it's been 14 years since we last saw them so we can see them aged and learn what's come of them in all that time? Does Dash become a man-child or does he mature? Does Dash's rebellious nature get him in trouble with the law? Does Violet have a family of her own? Does she hide her powers from her husband and kids? Does she have kids? Does Jack-Jack learn to control his powers? How do Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible cope with getting older? All these questions are way more interesting than the nothing we got from this movie. Although I am the one bringing these ideas up, I by no means think I would or could write that movie. I want Brad Bird to write that movie.
All the twists and turns are predictable. It really is everything you've seen before. Again, this is a story problem, but I feel like after 14 years, we would have gotten something worthwhile. Tony Ridinger looking at The Incredibles at the beginning, low-key made me think that this would be about him and his experiences. I feel like this should have been done differently, as he is the side to the side characters. I don't know, it felt way off. A lot of moments are played off so fast and simply just to get to the cool action set pieces. For example, the moment in which Winston explains what happened to his father's played off so fast that it feels like it doesn't really matter. Of course, me seeing a movie before led me to believe that he or his sister were going to be the main villain, and by the time that's over, it feels like Elastigirl is already fighting bad guys. It is set up poorly and lacks depth. Despite that, I really like the discussion between Evelyn and Elastigirl when all the supers got together and were drinking and talking about protecting the world and whatnot. The conversation is great, and it brings up very interesting and somewhat true statements about being in front for the first time for Elastigirl. The idea of people having to pay attention to her now feels like it has parallels to the Me Too movement, and unlike the fucking awful rendition of it in the hit TV series 13 Reasons Why, this feels like it can get its point across and not beat me in the head with it. Fuck you, Hannah Baker. All in all, this movie is fine. I don't think it was worth the wait, and it has problems that shouldn't go unseen like every movie ever, but hey, I'm glad it was made. I had a good time. It took my mind off the evil shit Donald Trump and his administration is doing, and it made me escape into a world of the supers. When a movie presents escapism, that's when I find it the most enjoyable, and this was quite enjoyable. I'll probably watch it again sometime in the future, but not anytime soon. I'm not gonna pick it up on Blu-ray either. Not as imaginative and thought-provoking as Coco, but still well made in my opinion, and I'm gonna give Incredibles 2 a 6 out of 10.
The only thing that comes to mind for me why this movie was made and why it's such a safe, nothing movie is because Tomorrowland was such a big loss for Disney and Brad Bird needed to prove himself as someone who can draw money in the box office. If I ever see this movie again, it will probably be in the background while I'm doing other stuff, or probably when I'm drinking with my friends. But other than that, this movie has no value to me, although I wish it did. What's frustrating the most to me is that nostalgia has been a theme in most of Brad Bird's movies, but he never leans on it. He critiques it, he admires it, but in my opinion, he never used it as a crutch, until now. And I'm giving The Incredibles 2 a 4 out of 10.
Chicas, piensen. ¿Los hombres van a salvar al mundo? Yo no creo. Yo no creo.